Spanish word for community or neighborhood. They are border communities found in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California. They're 150 miles within 150 miles of the Mexican border. They lack access to water that's safe for drinking, electricity, sanitary living conditions, education, and medical care. In Texas alone, 400,000 people are living in colonias. There are approximately 1,800 that are recognized by the government in Texas, 138 in New Mexico, 77 in Arizona, and 32 in California. I learned about colonias when I went to live in Arizona for 2 years and worked at a camp for the kids. A lot of the kids would come from either foster care, group homes, or from the colonias. They would stay for a week at a time, and they would get meals and clothes and things that they would need to be able to take home, and then they'd come back every few months. A couple girls that stood out to me there was a 7-year-old girl, Akira, who came in from a homeless shelter. We had to ask for the social reasons, what their parents did for a living, and she told me that her mom cleaned parking lots. Another girl was Angelica, and she lived with 16 people in a 2-room house, and her mom was pregnant. And there was a little girl, Jessica, who right after camp was over that Saturday was picked up to go to her first foster home. And this is Angie. She was 6 years old and she didn't know English at all, and she wasn't used to having electricity. So she was using the bathroom and the lights went out, and she came out hysterical because El Diablo had turned out the sound in the bathroom. Colonias began in the 1950s. Contractors would buy land that's useless to use for farming because it would be on floodplains or just areas that weren't good at all. They would divide the land into lots, and they would sell it to low-income families who couldn't afford to live anywhere else. The families build onto the land in stages as the money allows, so they start out with what they have and just add on as they can. And this is a picture of lots for sale. And this is an example of how they just add on to what they have. They purchased the colonias by contract for deed. It's appealing to the residents because it has a very low down payment and low monthly payments, but they don't receive the title until the last payment has been made, and they don't keep any record of it at the county clerk, so there's no way to prove that they've made any payments at all. If they miss even one payment by just a day, the contractors have the right to come back and reclaim the land and sell it again. They'll lose any property and any improvements that they've made on the land. This is a chart of the people who are below the poverty level in Texas colonias compared to the whole state of Texas, and then below 50% of the poverty level in the colonias versus the whole state of Texas. Because they're on floodplains, every year the colonias will flood. The water can contain E. coli, and they often get diseases like cholera. And they go untreated a lot of times, so they stay sick for very long, or they die from things that we wouldn't die from, like the flu. This is a doctor who actually goes into the colonias and does house visits with the residents there. Colonias are a contemporary native issue because there are 12 that are on tribal lands. There are 7 in Arizona, including the Achin Indian community, the Cocopah Indian Reservation, the Colorado River Indian Tribe, the Gila River Indian Community, the San Carlos Indian Reservation, the Tohono O'odham Nation, and the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community. There are 8 in California, including the Torres Martinez, Campo, La Jolla, La Posta, Los Coyotes, La Pala, Rincon, and San Fresca. To be a colonia, to be incorporated, the government has to recognize that it is a colonia and that it meets the criteria. On tribal lands, the sovereign tribal councils will determine whether or not the land is a colonia. Because of it being a Spanish word, colonia, with the Spanish language, people normally assume that it's a Hispanic issue and it's just a problem from people coming across the border illegally, which is a problem to use that name. because it's racist to name something a different language because it's poor and it disassociates it from America as we think of it. In actuality, 65% of the residents in colonias were born in the United States, and even more than that earned their citizenship. 85% of the residents under 18 were born in the United States. In Texas, most of the colonia residents are Hispanic, but in California and in Arizona, there are places where it's only 17% Hispanic and the rest would be native, or often old snowbirds that are retirees that have gone south. In the 2010 census, at least 300,000 people were missed. These are the colonia residents. The census said that they plan to go door to door, which raised concerns because often people in these neighborhoods won't answer the door for strangers. Instead, they said they would mail out the census papers, but 95% of residents never received them. They would call because they didn't want to miss being counted, but no one would return their calls. This is serious because it affects the funding that the colonias get for the next 10 years. The census figures determine what states and regions get what money and how many representatives they have. It's ironic because the places that are most in need of the government funding often get missed because the government says they're hard to count. And also, people who need it less, like wealthy white people, will be overcounted in the census. Even though that their situations are very low there, they often have close community ties because they rely on each other so much for their survival. The government passed a bill so that any colonia after 1990 won't get any funding because they're trying to prevent any more colonias from being built. However, it's a problem because just not building anymore won't solve the problem, and the problem is that they don't have affordable housing. My sources were the Texas Secretary of State, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, the Housing Assistance Council, the International Journal of Urban and Regional Research, the USDA Rural Development, and the Berkeley Housing Policy Debate. If you're interested in learning more about colonias, PBS has a documentary called The Forgotten Americans. Thank you.